Good afternoon, my dearest viewer. The panorama stretching out before your wondering eyes is none other than one of the buildings at the Humber University / college, whatever the hell it is, on Lakeshore and Kipling, from where I am making the following announcement. As you can see, it is a grand vista. I was actually on my way to the lake, which is over yonder there. I can actually see glimpses of blue. But in stopping on this beautiful campus in order to purchase a Tim Hortons coffee, which I did not in fact pick up, owing to the fact of the coffee shop being shut at 3 o'clock, I decided to make my general announcement here instead of down by the lake, of which I can see a couple of hints over that wall over there. The only problem with this plan is that the last time I was here taking pictures, a gentleman security officer was kind enough to accost me with the semblance of a contrivance, in as much as him not wanting me to take any pictures, although I don't see why that should be a problem at all. In fact, today I've thought it out, and I'm thinking that if said security officer or someone else does approach, well, I'm a damn security officer myself, and I'll just film the dude. I'll be like, nope, I'm not turning it off, and you better not touch me. And I guess at that point, you know what, according to the law, he can use reasonable force, just like police officers are allowed to use force plus one. Like, force plus one means if you pull out a knife, they can pull out a gun. If you start shouting, they can say, I'm going to grab you any minute because I'm getting pissed off. It happened to me once. I was down up in Vaughan, just by Steeles, on the border of Toronto and Vaughan. Vaughan's another suburb of the greater Toronto area. And, I went into, believe it or not, I went into this Subway shop to help the guy out with his marketing. So it was like at Finch or something, in Steele, or Keele and Finch, and they're building a huge subway line or extension out there. And so the road in front of the dude's place is all tore up and all this kind of stuff, and he's in there suffering, and I walked in to try and give him some marketing advice. Obviously I was not in the right frame of mind, or he wasn't, or whatever, and we ended up having it out. Literally, it was like gangbusters. And right at that moment, a cop pulls up, and he turned out to be really nice people, and I was really agitated. And as soon as he stepped out of his car, I was like, officer, this guy's a fucking asshole, or something like that. Pardon the French. Excusez-moi. S'il vous plaît. Montreal's awesome, by the way. I love the Frenchies up there. In any case, so the guy steps out, and basically in the midst of our discussion, he's like, listen, you're really wound up. And he's like, you should know that in Canada, you don't really have to, he's like, you don't have to actually touch someone in order to be charged with assault. It's basically just threatening someone or intimidating them, or having them feel intimidated, or putting them in a position where they feel intimidated or threatened is enough to get you charged with assault. Whereby in the States, it's more like touching someone or causing something to touch them without their consent, etc., yada yada. So I'm blathering on about all kinds of nonsense. It looks like said security guy is not going to show up and tell me to stop filming this beautiful campus. I don't see why there should be a problem with filming and then promoting this beautiful Humber College campus. The one thing I don't like about Humber is their damn ads. I've been meaning to get in touch with them. They have these ads and they're so presumptuous and self-righteous. We are business. Why can't they say you are business? Just turn the we into you. That's my whole thing with sales and marketing. My website is called salesandmarketingforyou.com, separated by hyphens. And along the way I realized that the you means you in apostrophe, which means your customer. Instead of saying we're so great, we're awesome, we've been around for 700 years, we've got the best products, say the same thing but use the you word. What are you looking for? Would you like to partner with the industry leader? Would you like to use the best software in the industry? And all this kind of nonsense. Take the focus off yourself and put it on the customer. I mean, you've still got marketing nowadays, which is just pronouncements and blaring and blah, 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 and exclamation marks. And most of advertising out there is so horrible, dear viewer. One of the things that really, I really suffer seeing some of the advertising out there. And then I reach out to advertising agencies and customers even, And they blow me off, man. I got such great advertising ideas, and you know, I got to be consistent. But that's the life of a struggling marketing consultant slash pseudo security guard. Oh my God, I'm probably at 4 or 5 minutes right now, and I haven't said anything about the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal. On my last video, I said something like, you know, God's a feeling, or I've said that before, and that's really the ultimate thing. Like the best or the most definitive proofs of his existence are the intrinsic ones, you know, the feeling. Like they say, well, you can't quantify him, and like how can you prove he exists when you can't see him, and all this nonsense. Well, what about love? What about emotions? What about thoughts? What about pain? Like all of these things are essentially unquantifiable and immeasurable. I was going to tweet the other day, but I forgot that the best things in life are not just free, they're unquantifiable. Happiness. Now, you can measure serotonin levels and all this kind of garbage, but you can't measure happiness itself. You can't measure emotions, and those are the things that are indeed, my dearest viewer, the most precious, precioso, como mi esposita hablar o diga. Anyhow, so here's the thing. I wanted to talk about just that sense I get when I think of things from an atheistic perspective. I'd mentioned in a previous video that actually going into the mindset of an atheist has actually made me more of a monotheist, because I've had to essentially prove out to myself what I'm feeling and really go into the justifications. I'm a truth seeker, and I hope if you're listening to this, whether you're agnostic, atheist, or whatever, polytheist, I hope you're a truth seeker, and you get a sense that there is a truth out there. I mean, obviously there's a whole discussion of you can't box the truth in and all this kind of nonsense, but there's something out there. There's answers. There's something, right? There's something like out there. Like we're being guided towards it. So in any case, so this is the average person, I'm assuming, has this kind of thought process when he's face to face with the inevitable conclusion that there's a God. No, I dare not say something like that. When he's told to think about God, he thinks to himself, he's like, he's like, how can it be that, and I've said this before, I just want to expand on it because it's so delicious. And I went through the same thought process. In fact, I had not hitherto joining these atheistic discussions. And so my faith and my point of view and my spirituality or whatever, my belief has been increased just by having to go through the mental process. So how is it that there's nothing and yet there's this being, and he's been around forever, and it can't be said of him that he was created, and he's just there, and he exists forever, in perpetuity, in time, forever? Well, the thing is this, of course that's, from a scientific perspective, that doesn't make any sense. But then what's the alternative? That the universe has been around forever? That's equally absurd. You're going to say the universe has been around forever, and it's the source of everything. There's only one of two, I keep coming back to this. It's only one of two alternatives. In as much as the universe or the world or whatever, the great known, whatever we know, okay? Either it has existed forever, which is absurd. It's absurd. How can everything, and we know it's not existed forever. The universe we know came from a singularity, the Big Bang, right? It just suddenly appeared and there's an explosion. You know, as to what caused that, that's the real question. But in any case, see, there is no, my dear viewer, there is no, from a rational and intellectual perspective, there is no explanation, and there can be no explanation apart from there is a God, and he's one God, and he's vastly intelligent than we are, and he's the source of everything amazing that we see around us. Okay, you're going to say, well, no, it's all an accident. I dare say it's not an accident. You think these are accidental? How could it be? But in any case, so the thing is this, the very thing that makes it so illogical or so, in a sense, preposterous, that is the notion that there's a God and he's just been out there. You know, like Imam Ali, peace be upon him, and our holy Imams, peace be upon them all, talk about these things, that you can't say where he is, you can't say how he is, you can't say why he is. He's not contained by the word mata, when, in Urdu. He's not contained by qabl, before, or ba'd, after. He's not contained by any of these things. He's just out there. And the thing is this, when you start understanding how impossible it is, that's when you start understanding how amazing it is. It's probably not going to fly with most atheists. I've probably lost most of them at this point anyway. My point is this, that, you know, for instance, in Arabic and in Quranic terminology, we say things like al-hayy al-qayyum, the living and the self-subsisting. And not only that, living and self-subsisting, but he is that living and self-subsisting being on whom everything else subsists. And when you just delve into it, like, I guess this is it. This is the step you got to take. You got to say it has to be the case. There's no other alternative. You might say something like, we can't know, or we'll never know, like Richard-Dawkins says. Well, we just don't know what's going on. Or like my jailmate or my cellmate in jail, Jerry Norman, I blogged about him. Hey Jerry, hope you're doing all right, buddy. Poor guy, man. He's serving like 8 years for like manslaughter or some damn thing. Actually, he served 8 years and then he got into another fight and hurt another person, and now he's like basically he got picked up. He was out on bail, and the officer, arresting officer, made up the story that he was out to buy drugs. I lived the whole spiritual thing for a long time, and they were white Sufis, by the way. Sufi is like the so-called mystical sect of Islam, right? And Sufis themselves trace everything they do up to Imam Ali, peace be upon him. If you ask, or if you talk, or if you research Rumi and Tabrizi and, you know, Shamsuddin Tabrizi and Jalaluddin Rumi, Sufi masters, they talk about reading Imam Ali's lectures and whatnot, that you can actually go out and preview yourself, my dear viewer, in Nahj al-Balagha, Peak of Eloquence. In any case, so Jerry's like, well, listen, at this point in time, I just couldn't care less, and I don't believe in anything. And he's like, if a person were to come down out of the sky with lights and angels and all this kind of nonsense, he'd say, I still wouldn't believe it. It's a pretty bold statement. I don't know where I was going with it, but I guess essentially, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself what possible answer or explanation there could be for everything if not God. Like, atheists say, well, you know what, when you guys can't explain anything, you say God. That they say that sounds great, but it's not really the case. They're like, you know, why do you scare children with stories of hell and demons and fires and, you know, like, it sounds cogent, but it's not really the case. I was never scared, and no kid I know is scared when he reads the Quran and all this kind of stuff. In any case, here's the thing. I choose to believe in that there is an ever-living being. Right? It wasn't just there was nothing and one day there was everything. That doesn't make any damn sense, and that's the only alternative. You're going to be like, well, we don't know and we may never know. That's what being intellectually lazy is. Because you only have two alternatives. That's the whole beauty of the universe. It's all black and white. It really is. Heat and darkness and all this kind of stuff. I've mentioned before how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to Imam Ali, has made a universe of opposites, right? And that's all it is. And the Socratic method, essentially, you basically go down a path, and each, like when you're going towards the truth or some conclusion or solution, you'll always arrive at a juncture, and you'll have either A or B. So, universe, has it existed forever? A or B? And the answer is it couldn't have existed forever unless it created itself or some damn thing. It's all absurd. So something created the universe, and that something had to be greater than the universe. And what we see in the universe is amazingness and amazing ingenuity and amazing wisdom and intelligence, all this kind of stuff. So basically, you make that choice, and once you get into it, believing in a God who is impossible is the bomb. Like, impossible in the sense that you can't fathom it.